Ever wanted to play a game where you're a roided out barbarian going up against the legions of death and despair in a gothic environment? Well, in the Legendary Axe games, you can, and I've beaten both of them. Are they worth it? Stick around and I'll tell you. My name is Fortefyre, and welcome to Series Slayer. In modern gaming, it's not unheard of to see epic warriors of legend, but let's rewind to 1989. The North American console wars were heating up. Nintendo owned the living room, Sega was moving in fast, and NEC wanted a piece of the action. They'd already found success in Japan with the PC Engine, a tiny powerhouse that punched way above its weight. In the United States, it got rebranded as the TurboGrafx 16, a system that looks futuristic but struggled under corporate confusion and what many consider, including myself, to be extremely bad marketing. NEC called it next generation, but by the time it hit the store shelves, the Genesis had already stolen its thunder. Still, the hardware was impressive. It wasn't technically 16-bit, more like 8-bit with a 16-bit graphics processor, but it could push colors, parallax scrolling, and soundtracks that blew the NES out of the water. The problem was the software. The TurboGrafx didn't have Mario, and it surely didn't have Sonic, so it had to make its own icons. Enter Victor Interactive and a little title called The Legendary Axe. It was the game NEC used in magazine ads and store demos, even on the back of the box. It wasn't just a platformer, it was the TurboGrafx first real statement. When the Legendary Axe launched alongside the TG16, it felt like the future. Developed by Victor Interactive Software, it starred a barbarian named Goguen, a classic 80s muscle hero with a mission: rescue his kidnapped girlfriend Flair from a cult that worships a giant god beast. It sounds like something Conan would have shrugged through on a weekend, but the way it played was revolutionary for its time. Instead of spamming attacks like every other hack-and-slash platformer out there, your weapon had a power meter that charged with each swing. The longer you waited, the stronger the blow, adding strategy and rhythm to what could have been a brainless brawler. From the first forest level, the TurboGrafx flexes. The parallax backgrounds give real depth to the world. The color palette explodes off the screen, and the music, oh, that music, it's tribal, thunderous, and unforgettable. Every area feels distinct: mossy caverns, molten caves, ancient ruins. The enemies are large, detailed, and animated with precision unheard of in 1989. And unlike many games of the era, Legendary Axe rewards patience and awareness. You learn enemy timings, you manage your swing meter, and you feel the satisfaction of that perfectly charged hit. It's raw, it's primal, and it's paced like a cinematic action film years before that was the norm. What made the Legendary Axe truly special, though, was how it showcased the identity of the TurboGrafx. For example, it wasn't copying Nintendo's polish, and it surely wasn't copying Sega's speed. It was carving out its own middle ground. Darker, moodier, more deliberate games. It felt like an arcade epic you could play at home without compromise. Critics raved, magazines hailed it as TurboGrafx killer app, and for a moment, it looked like NEC had found its hero. This was the game that proved the Turbo wasn't just a gimmick, it was a contender. Goggen's journey wasn't just about saving Flair, in some ways it was about saving a console's reputation. Then came the Legendary Axe 2, and it threw everyone off. Released barely a year later, it looked similar in name but felt like a completely different beast. Gone were the jungles and pulp fantasy tones, instead replaced with gothic castles, metallic corridors, and a protagonist who seemed weighed down by more than just his armor. Even the music told a different story: brooding, melancholic, almost mournful. Fans expecting more Conan got a game that felt like Castlevania's estranged cousin. Slow, deliberate, and drenched in atmosphere. It wasn't what anyone expected from a sequel, and that's exactly why I find it fascinating. Gameplay-wise, everything was heavier. Your weapon swings slower, but it hits harder. Enemies are smarter, more deliberate, and combat feels like a duel instead of a brawl. The level design leans into verticality, twisting paths, traps, and claustrophobic hallways that punish the impatient. It's not about reflex, it's about timing and nerves. The sequel trades instant gratification for tension, and in doing so, it totally shifts the tone. The bright jungles of the original become dim labyrinths. Victory feels less like triumph and more like survival. It's oppressive, but beautifully so, a visual and tonal leap that most sequels of its time wouldn't have dared attempt. At release, many players didn't get it. Some even thought it was a different franchise altogether. It lacked that straightforward thrill of its predecessor, but in hindsight, it kind of feels prophetic. The deliberate pacing, heavy combat, and haunting mood predate the DNA that would later define Dark Souls and Blasphemous. The Legendary Axe 2 took the risk of maturity, swapping brute spectacle for introspection, and while it alienated fans then, it aged like fine steel. It's G tier to me. Misunderstood in its own time, quietly brilliant in retrospect, and proof that even a console gasping for breath could deliver something timeless. So that begs the question, is this series worth it? And to that I say, yes, it actually is. The two games are very different. One's more lighthearted, the other is very, very gritty, but through and through, the entire franchise is a powerhouse on a console that was dominated by vertical and horizontal shooters. So if you want to take the time to play a solid action, platforming, hack and slash, whatever the fuck it is, game, this is the series to check out. But that's it for today's episode. What did you think of it? Have you ever played this legendary series? Feel free to let the community know down in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your memories about these timeless classics. Speaking of our community, if you made it to the end of this episode, you're already home with us. We're a gathering of video game enthusiasts that love to remember when life was just a little bit easier to live. And if you align with that, you'll fit right in. Finally, the single most important thing you can do for me is to hit that thumbs up button, as it directly affects the visibility of the videos and the projects that I work on every single day. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortefyre out.